All right, my people, so today we're going to do some intense trig simplification. And so one of the things that I find that is super helpful when I'm not exactly sure what to do is I put things into algebraic terms. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So right now it says 1 over 1 minus sine x plus 1 over 1 plus sine x. Ugh. So I'm going to think about what would I do just normal if I'm adding fractions. What do you have to do when you're adding fractions? Yeah, you have to get common denominators. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite this in algebra. I'm trying to get the pen. Okay. So over on the side, I'm going to, let's say, algebra. And I'm going to write that as 1 over 1 minus s plus 1 over 1 plus s. And you have to go way back into your algebra brain and say, okay, how do I get common denominators? Well, I would multiply this side by 1 plus s. If I do it to the top, I do it to the bottom. Okay, so do you see how that's giving me a common denominator over on the side? And then what do I have to do to the second one? I'm going to multiply this by 1, not plus, 1 minus s. Didn't quite leave enough room there. And 1 minus s. Okay, so what happens then, over on the left, I get 1 plus s, because I multiplied through distributive property. And then I got plus. On this side, I get 1 minus s. All over, we've got a FOIL, so 1 times 1. But do you see that it's a plus and a minus? So difference of squares says I get 1 minus s squared. Okay, now I'm going to take this back over into trig. Very soon at least. Okay, let's look right here. What's 1 plus 1? 2. And what's s minus s? Nothing. Okay, so I get 2 over 1 minus sine squared theta. Or x, whatever. Ooh, what is that equal to? Yeah, 1 minus sine squared gives you cosine squared. So, therefore, I've got 2 over cosine squared theta, or x again. Now, do you remember we can't have fractions? No fractions. That means my final solution is 2 secant squared x or theta. I suppose I should use x because that's what it was. Is that not amazing? Whew. Okay, if you're not sure how I got to secant, go back and check your main functions and see what happened. Let's try another one. So this one has, I've got a sine on top, a 1 minus cosine x, plus 1 minus cosine x over sine. You cannot simplify stuff here because of the 1. So that's like a long time ago, way back in the day, if I had written like x plus 5 over x, be like, can I simplify the x's? And the answer is no, you can't. You cannot do that because of the plus sign. So here, because of the plus sign, you can't just simplify stuff. All right, so that said, let's get rid of this. I've got to make it so that I get a common denominator. So what do I need on this side? I need to multiply in a sine x and a sine x. And then what do I need to multiply into this side? I need to multiply a 1 minus cosine x onto the bottom and the top. All right, so it is possible that you can just look and say, ooh, all right, so I've got sine squared x over here. On the bottom, I'm going to have, I'm going to put the sine first. Sine x times 1 minus cosine x. Ugh. All right, that's not helpful. Oh, the dog is shaking. Okay, now I'm actually going to put it over into algebra, over on this side, because sometimes with all of the words I get lost in all the things. So I'm going to take a s over 1 minus cosine, okay, plus 1 minus c all over s. So I'm going to multiply in my sine and my sine, my 1 minus c, and my 1 minus c. Okay, that said, I'm going to look right up here. See this part? If I do 1 minus c times 1 minus c, I'm pretty confident you'll get the 1 and the c squared. Will you get the minus 2c in the middle? You're like, what? Well, see how I go. So the 1 and 1, negative c and c is plus c squared. Minus 1c, minus 1c. Do not forget the middle. Okay, so what that means is over here I get plus 1 minus 2 cosine x plus cosine squared x. Right, that's a lot going on. And actually, I see something that is super nice. Now, given it's not all together, but let's do this. I'm going to highlight something. Look at this. What do you see here and here? You can do these in any order. So I've got a sine squared x and a cosine squared x. That equals 1. So I've got 1 plus 1 minus 2 cosine x all over sine x times 1 cosine x. Nope, 1, what, minus cosine x? Okay, great fun. So let's put some stuff on the top. Oh, I see something. Oh, this is great. Okay, watch this. Do you see how you've got 1 and 1? Okay, 1 and 1 makes 2. Minus 2 cosine x. On the bottom, I've got a sine x and a 1 minus cosine x. Do you see how the cosine x's are going to cancel? Or the 1 minus cosine x? So watch this. On the top, I'm going to go back into algebra for a second. 2 minus 2c. You can factor out the 2. That's the same as having 2 times 1 minus c. All right, so I keep going. So I can take the 2 out. 1 minus cosine x all over sine x. 1 minus cosine x. Look at they cancel. So that goes to 1. So I've got 2 over sine x. This takes a lot of paper. It's fine. You can do hard things. Sine x on the bottom means I have 2 cosecant x. So sometimes when we're learning how to do this, you need a high tolerance for frustration. If you get frustrated, no worries. Take 5 minutes off, come back to it. That's a life skill, figuring out how do I work through my frustration, but super satisfying when you get to the answer.